The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida. This is episode 7A of the Finding Florida podcast on the Florida Podcast Network, Riverwalking Tampa Bay Preview.
Welcome to Finding Florida, the podcast that takes you from country to the coast. Join your tour guides, an unlikely pair, city girl Jemmy and country boy Glenn, as they explore the amazing sights and sounds of the Sunshine State.
Thank you for joining us in this lead up to our 7th adventure of the Finding Florida podcast. We are challenged to walk the famed 2.4-mile Riverwalk in Tampa Bay, doing as many things along the way as possible, all in one day.
So all of the audio from that fun adventure along the Tampa Bay Riverwalk will be on the next episode, 7B. And we really had a great time over there, especially because we were able to meet up with so many of our fellow podcasting friends. In fact, here are a few clips.
I just want to clarify, too, Jemmy was not handcuffed.
No, not this time. Not this time. Thankfully.
To do rescue, rehab, release for sea turtles.
I may or may not have a tattoo of a sea turtle because they may or may not be one of my favorites.
She has a crush on sea turtles.
Yes! Wait, so I've got Dr. Ari.
Dr. Ari, first question is, do you have a tattoo of a sea turtle?
I do not.
Ah, you are behind the times, my man.
Not as dedicated as me, honestly. Not as dedicated as me.
You get 20% of the actual item.
The stuff, the booty. But we have to use the right terms when we're talking about pirates, okay?
No, he just wanted an excuse to use the word booty, let's be honest.
Look at this beautiful weather.
Oh, it's beautiful.
How can you beat this? Would you want to be in Minnesota right now? No. Exactly, right? So here we are in beautiful Tampa Bay.
So yeah, we really had a great time. But on this episode, we are talking about Tampa Bay, which is a cornerstone of Florida's port-related industries, revisiting with Kevin Wiatrowski of Visit Tampa Bay, and then get into a whole bunch of other fun Florida stuff, including a mystery sound and segments for FML and Flori-DUH. Listen in.
We need the sunshine and palm trees of Florida.
Just a quick reminder for you to go ahead and jump into the FPN Insiders on Facebook. It's a closed group exclusively for fans of the Florida Podcast Network shows, such as Finding Florida Podcast, and will give you access to early scoops, contests, and other special treats. So, Jemmy and I look forward to meeting you there.
And our network has a brand new website. Head over to floridapodcastnetwork.com to see the facelift for yourself. It's now full of episodes from all the shows, including the directory dial-ups, where I interview other podcasters from Florida, fun facts and local feedback about Florida, links to all the network's social interwebs, information on how to partner with us, and more. So take a peek. floridapodcastnetwork.com. That's floridapodcastnetwork.com.
We also want to thank all of you who send us comments, whether it's on social media, on the website, or email. Some of those do end up on our website. So we can't thank you enough for contributing. You can email us, by the way, at Jemmy, that's Jaime, or Glenn at floridapodcastnetwork.com. If you want an answer, you actually email Jemmy. We can really appreciate all the notes, ideas, and feedback. In fact, we recently got this comment from a listener named Howard from Orlando. I got to say, you guys are great, and I love this new podcast. I'd love to connect with you guys if you make your way back to Central Florida soon. Keep those great episodes coming. Well, I think actually we are. Sometime over the summer, we're going to be hitting Central Florida.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll be back.
We'll be back, Howard. We swear.
You know, you can't do things in Florida without hitting Central Florida a lot.
Exactly.
So,
even if we're just passing through. We'll see you, Howard. We promise. And Zach from Randolph, New Jersey, an out-of-stater, he's listening, and he said, I want to thank you for Finding Florida podcast offerings. It's a real fun, educational, entertaining, and nice diversion to boring commutes, especially in the cold north. You two make a real good pair as co-hosts. Thank you both for what you do. Now, we don't read these to build ourselves up, but we just want to say thank you to all of you for listening and for also sending us this feedback. We love that you guys are doing it. We just can't get over it. So thank you.
All right, so let's get to this episode where we talk about our next adventure in the next episode on 7B.
Let the adventure begin. Need a convenient and delicious dessert? Look no further. Grab a cheesecake jar from Leanne's, a local Tampa-grown company shaking up dessert. They bake a single slice of New York cheesecake right in a jar to keep it from getting cold on hot Florida days. It's genius. We both tried some for ourselves back at Podfest and truly loved it. And then they met us out in Tampa and gave us more. So we love them now even more. Thank you so much, guys. Find Leanne's on social media as Cheesecake, the letter N, More. Cheesecake and More. And look up the Central Florida location nearest you to find their yummy jars. Their website is www.leannescheesecakesandmore.com. That's Leanns cheesecakes, the letter N, more.com. Or give Joseph a call at 813-445-3861 for your treat in a jar.
Run around, shimmy down, party everyone. Tampa Bay's the place with a lot of funky fun. It's groovy.
Well, every month we like to take a look at the history of the place we're visiting. Mm-hmm. And of course, Tampa Bay is our stop this month. It is the county seat. It is the county seat of Hillsborough County, which has a population of around 370,000. Archaeological evidence indicates that the shores of Tampa Bay were inhabited by indigenous peoples for thousands of years. In 1521, Tampa began as an Indian fishing village. Native tribes called the village by the bay Tampa, T-A-N-P-A, which meant sticks of fire. On maps made by early explorers, the spelling became Tampa, and that's how it got its name. Then in the spring of 1539, Hernando de Soto sailed into Tampa Bay, searched for gold. I don't think he found any. And after that, the area was left largely untouched for 200 years.
Yeah, sounds like he didn't find any because it would not
No,
have been
I don't think he found any gold. Yeah, no gold here. In 1772, a Dutch cartographer by the name of Bernard Romans gave the name Hillsborough to the local river and county and the upper arm of the Tampa Bay. This was done in honor of Lord Hillsborough, Secretary of State for the colonies. In 1821, the United States purchased Florida from Spain, and in 1824, the United States Army established a frontier outpost called Fort Brooke at the mouth of the Hillsborough River, near the site of today's Tampa Convention Center. We were right there.
We were sipping our drinks with no straws.
That's right.
We listened to Florida Aquarium, no straws.
The first civilian residents were pioneer ranchers and farmers who settled near the fort for protection from the nearby Seminole population.
You know, I find that so interesting because on our trip to go visit Billy Swamp, we got to hear and learn all about the Seminoles. And it's interesting to hear the flip side of it. So it's a total opposite side of history. It's so interesting.
It's totally the opposite. The town grew slowly and had become a minor shipping port for cattle and citrus by the time of the Civil War. Tampa Bay was blocked by, and I didn't know this, was blocked by the United States Navy during the war, and Tampa fell into a long period of economic stagnation and continued long after the war ended.
That is interesting.
It changed, and we learned a little bit about this on our trip. It changed in the 1880s when the first railroad links and the discovery of phosphate and the arrival of the cigar industry jump-started the development. And that helped Tampa grow from an isolated village with less than 800 residents in 1880 to a bustling city of over 30,000 in the early 1900s. Tomorrow's episode is the name Henry B. Plant.
Yes.
Well, he came to explore the city. He extended the railroad to Tampa in 1884, and he started a steamship line from Tampa to Key West to Havana, Cuba. And that's where the cigar rolling came in, because he had a steamship company that went to Havana. You're going to hear a lot about the hotel tomorrow, so we won't talk too much about that. But Don Vincent Martinez Ebor, an influential cigar manufacturer and Cuban exile, moved his cigar business from Key West to east of Tampa in 1885. The following year, the first cigar factory opened, and more Spanish cigar manufacturers began moving their factories and workers to Tampa. The Spanish, Italian, German, and Cuban workers who settled here worked in the cigar industry and to the point where there were 200 factories with 12,000 people working in Ybor City, which was tagged cigar capital of the world.
You know, it's so interesting because we're going to talk to Kevin from Visit Tampa Bay here in a minute, and people are going to hear his comment about just the diversity of the town, of the city. And you look at the history and all the people that came together to create all the influences. You know, you mentioned Cubans, Germans, Italians, Spanish, you know, just, and of course the natives. So it's just, there's so much here. It's really incredible. And I'm not a big cigar person, but I really want to go to Ybor City. I feel like I'm very, very curious about that place.
And next up is Kevin, who handles public relations at Visit Tampa Bay. And Kevin was, I'll tell you what, he worked overtime to make this adventure come together. And you really did a magnificent job of putting everything together. And we're excited about that. Thank you so much for all the hard work you've put into our weekend.
Not a problem. That was my pleasure. I'm always eager to show off Tampa. It's a great town.
Yeah, Kevin, it wouldn't have been the same without everything you did. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry I missed you. We talked about I was out of town that weekend. I'm sorry I couldn't hang out with you because all the stuff you did is the stuff I love to do. So,
well, the Green Swamp called.
Just tagged along and gotten paid to have fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. You did a great job. And so let's talk a little bit about Tampa. How long have you lived in Tampa Bay?
I have been here 15 years. And tell you the truth, I would not live anywhere else in Florida. No offense to any other town, but this is a great town to live in. It has everything you could need living in Florida, and I just love it here. It's a great town.
I can see why. Because one of the things that I like about Tampa is get off the highway. You're in downtown literally in 2 minutes. It's not like one of those cities where you spend hours to get into downtown. We were in downtown in no time at all where the hotel was and, where everything's happening. You're there quickly. And it has the feel of a big city, yet the feel of a small city. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
But get around, even with all the cruise pedestrians, it was still easy to get around.
I agree completely. I grew up in a small town. I'm from Virginia originally, but I grew up in a small town in Virginia. But I'm a big city guy at heart, and I love that aspect of Tampa. It is compact enough, especially downtown in the core of the city where you guys did most of your stuff. It is compact, very walkable, easy to navigate. I tell people it's harder to drive in downtown Tampa than it is to walk in downtown Tampa.
That is true.
We have a lot of one-way streets. So, but the blocks are small, the sidewalks are easy to navigate. You can be, on the ground here and feel like you know where you're going in a very short amount of time. So it's a very easy to navigate. It feels like that sort of perfect mix of small town and big city. It has all the cool stuff that you love in a city, all the culture, all the museums, all the cool restaurants. Of course, we're, the hub for craft beer here for the state of Florida. So we have more breweries than we know what to do with. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You've got plenty of room to come back, let me tell you.
Oh, my gosh. I know we have a lot of craft beer down my way, especially in Delray Beach, but Tampa Bay, you're holding out on. I mean, you did a lot, but Kevin, I feel
you don't know what you're talking about. Well, you only got one day. I can't. I'll kill you if I try to make you do everything in one day.
You'll find out, I learned a major lesson in hydration.
She drank enough anyway.
I think I did all right.
I've been to Cigar City Brewing Company a couple times actually, and that's really cool. We enjoy going there. Yeah.
Cigar City is fantastic. They are really the grandfather of our craft brewing scene here. They started about 10 or 12 years ago and have spun off quite a few breweries in that time. But there's everything you could want to tell people. If you like your beer light and bright or dark as night, you will find what you want here. And places like Coppertail or Angry Chair, these are, fantastic neighborhood breweries that have are great places to hang out.
We did come across a random Irish pub when we were walking around. I wish I could remember the name of it off the top of my head, but we did come across a random Irish pub. It was really good.
Yeah, it was probably 4 Green Fields. It's right downtown.
Yes, that's it. Yes. You're right.
So out of place where it was, but they were so nice in there, actually.
Yeah, that spot just opened, just off the Riverwalk, and it's a cool venue. They used to be another location close to downtown, and they moved there a couple months ago. And we have an Irish mayor here who is very proud of his heritage, and so St. Patrick's Day and Irish pubs have become a much bigger deal here of late.
Interesting.
St. Patrick's Day has become a big holiday for us.
Well, you guys do know how to do your parades already with your Gasparilla Parade, and I'm sure your St. Patrick's Day parades are equally as awesome, so I got to make sure we check those out. But one thing I loved about the experience of being there was just how flawlessly and seamlessly the history of Tampa Bay is woven throughout the Riverwalk. I mean, not just with, the Heroes Plaza and the busts of the historic figures and all of that, but there's just so much history just woven right in that you can experience there. So if you're interested in Tampa Bay, or if you live there and you just want to be prideful of your roots, it's an easy way to learn more about your town just by walking the Riverwalk. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that is a nice aspect of the Riverwalk. We, as a city in Florida, we have a lot of history here. I think, a lot of people look at Florida from the outside and say it has no history. What is Florida? It was just created yesterday.
Right.
But Tampa Tampa's been here. We've been here since Florida became a state. We really took off in the 1880s when the cigar industry came here and the railroad came here, and we have been very diligent about preserving that history. You can go to Ybor City today and get a hand-rolled cigar just like they made them 130 years ago when Vicente Ybor came to town and set up shop out there in Ybor City. So it's great to be able to celebrate that history. You noticed, I'm sure, on the Riverwalk, we have all those statues, those busts of historic figures. Mm-hmm. And the thing I like the most about those is they really show the diversity of Tampa. We have a mix of people here, a lot more akin to a bigger city in the Northeast, maybe Boston or someplace. We have a long history of immigration here with the cigar industry and the other things that we've done. So it's a really broad mix of people, and you see that in those statues. You see the Cuban influence, you see the Spanish influence, you see the women, the role that women have played in the town over the years. It's very impressive, and it's a really cool aspect to be able to say, hop a bike on the Riverwalk and take in that aspect of the town. I've learned a lot just walking up down the Riverwalk.
Right.
Well, food, let's talk about food. Tampa is known for food. We only got to taste a tiny bit of the food that's available in Tampa. But that is one of the things that when we talked to you on the phone and getting this all set up, your idea was to send us to about 12 restaurants in a day because you truly are invigorated by the food that's available in Tampa.
Yes, we will feed you more than you can possibly eat.
I accept that challenge.
All right. We'll put you to the test. Food has become a huge thing for us, and obviously the Cuban sandwich. If you talk about Tampa, you have to talk about the Cuban sandwich. Contrary to what people elsewhere in Florida want people to believe, the Cuban sandwich was invented here in Ybor City to feed those.
I'll say it for you.
Not. We don't say anywhere. I mean, I'm talking about any other towns. Nowhere else in Florida who might have Cuban sandwiches. It was invented here in the 1890s to feed those Cuban cigar workers, and the mix of material, the mix of food on that sandwich, the pork, the ham, the salami, which is the key. Those are the Italians in Ybor City. The salami, the mustard, the Cuban bread, all that stuff was drawn from the ethnic mix, the immigrant mix of Ybor City, and it really reflects the community at the time. One of the ways you have an authentic Tampa Cuban sandwich is the mustard, because back in those days there was no refrigeration, so you couldn't put mayonnaise. God help you! You couldn't put mayonnaise
I would have puked right
or lettuce, on your Cuban sandwich because it wouldn't be suitable to eat later. So, the one thing that we did sort of borrow from other places in Florida is the pressing part of it. So the original Cuban was a cold sandwich, and
I think it was much better pressed.
It was nice and crispy.
Definitely.
I agree.
Good. The bread was
I agree.
delicious.
So I will concede that to other places that was a good addition. But the last 10 years, really, we have seen an explosion of fantastic creativity in our food scene here. We have some really talented young chefs.
You are challenging us to come back for a food challenge. Here's my suggestion. So let's put all these wonderful things on. You have a children's museum, an art museum, this, that. We got to see tons of museums around the Riverwalk. How about a Tampa Bay food museum? Just hear me out. Make it really
where
easy.
You're allowed displays. You can eat the displays.
Yes,
I love that.
I like that. Well, we're close to that. We do have the Columbia Cafe at the History Center. So we're pretty close to that right now.
That's where we got our achievement too.
Yeah, it was good. They made it on the fly for us so we could grab it and eat it on the way, and it was delicious.
Well,
now we'll have to go to the original in Ybor City is where we're going to have to go.
Oh, okay. I'm down.
Yes, without a doubt. The oldest restaurant in Florida, the Columbia in Ybor City.
Let's give out your website. Tell everybody where they can find it because it's a terrific website. Give it where they can go find more. If you want a weekend away and you've been overlooking Tampa thinking, why Tampa? Don't do that because you truly could have a wonderful weekend from the Big Cat Rescue to, if you're into animals, the zoo to the aquarium and then all the museums and the nightlife in Ybor City.
Centrally located. It's such an easy drive no matter where you are in Florida. I mean, really.
I agree. Yeah, that is one of the nice things about us. We are easy to reach from just about everywhere. If you want to come explore Tampa and discover all the great treasures that await you right here in Tampa Bay, the address is www.visitampabay.com. You can check out everything we have. You can book a hotel room right on that site. You can work your way through a whole weekend of whatever you want to do. If it's roller coasters or animals with the family, if you just want to eat yourself stupid, we can accommodate you there. If you want to hop the brew bus and tour our breweries, we got plenty to do there. If you want to get outside and enjoy the weather, we can do that too. So we call ourselves Florida's most diverse destination. We have everything in one spot that you need to make a perfect Florida trip. So you can either travel the whole state or you can come here and do it all in one spot with us.
Well, we had a great time. We really, really did.
We need to have you guys back. You got to try some of the other things. So I think we'll put together a eat your way through Tampa's history. Maybe we'll hook you up with 130 years worth of food.
Can we change that to eat and drink your way through Tampa's history? I'm just saying.
I think we can manage. We had Florida's first commercial brewery here, so we can manage that. We've been making beer for a long time.
First restaurant, first commercial brewery. Oh, you guys broke the mold. I love it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well, it was a pleasure to have you guys in town, and we'll definitely do it again.
Create your own experience. Visit Tampa Bay.
Well, you're going to have to tune into 7B, which will come out in a day or two. It'll be in all your feeds, and you're going to hear all about the adventures that we had in Tampa, including whether we survived walking all that way, whether we survived...
You survived the water bikes.
With the water bikes, which were a lot harder than I thought they'd be, whether we survived the alcohol and
our friends and their naughty influences on us.
So all of that's coming up in 7B. And since we're in the neighborhood, we got to meet up with Susan at Big Cat Rescue. But that was such a special visit that we decided to give you its own bonus episode. So we'll keep you guys posted on when that's going to come out. It'll be out in the next, a couple of weeks. It'll be episode 7C. And we just had a great time there. But we felt it was so important and it stood up on its own that we really wanted you to hear about the wonderful work that they're doing over there.
They're phenomenal people. Yeah. And everyone who heard that we were going out there was so excited to hear that we were going to be taking the show there and super jealous, I might add, too. They all wanted to come along. But it was so amazing. Those animals are simply beautiful and their stories are impactful. So thank you to Susan Bass again from their team for spending the afternoon showing us around. Please find them at bigcatrescue.org. And again, watch for that bonus episode 7C, to come out soon. So, guess what time it is, Glenn?
What?
It's time for us to find out more fun stuff about the rest of the state of Florida.
I love this segment.
Florida. where you get school credit for learning to water ski.
Glenn, I have the cutest mystery sound for everyone today. It was sent to us by our new friend and FPN insider, Steve Heath. But first, let's replay the last mystery sound we had, which was on episode 5A.
Well, it has to be something that was horny because that seems to be your trend here.
Okay, yeah, good point. So the dramatic reveal, and you kind of are right. It was peacocks. Sure. Those are the peacocks behind my building, and it is definitely mating season. So you're right, Glenn. Those were some horny peacocks.
All right. I have visited her place a couple times now, and those peacocks do not shut up the entire day. And there must be 1,000 of them, and they do not shut up.
It would be really annoying if I didn't.
All day, all night.
Oh, man. All right, so let's get into this episode's mystery sound from insider Steve Heath. I'll give you a clue. We visited a place that was all about these things on our road trip for episode 2B, our animal adventures of Route 1. So to get the mystery sound right, you have to both tell me what is making the noise and what it is doing to make the noise. All right, play that file.
It's a dryer, washer or dryer.
Sounds like it, or it sounds like someone's getting an ultrasound.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, it does sound like an ultrasound. Maybe of a mom with a baby.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I know, but the first person to email us at Jemmy, Jaime, at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com with the answer wins a piece of Finding Florida podcast swag. So we're going to play it one more time. Listen up closely. Be the first to email me with the correct answer. Here's a clip one more time. FML. Florida. Ugh, my life. Now, our insiders are going to be familiar with this FML clip already. I came across this hilarious video from That's Inappropriate on Facebook. Why don't you just give us a taste, Glenn, of the intro?
I was talking with somebody who lives up north, and they were saying how us Floridians need to not complain about the weather because they're still dealing with snow. You should be aware that we have some other issues that come up as a result of the heat and the constant humidity that we live in.
Ooh, so she talks about something that all of us Floridians are all too familiar with.
So if a Floridian is ever in a rough mood between the months of about mid-March through, September, you might want to consider the fact that that person is probably suffering from a severe case of swamp ass, basically like an adult version of diaper rash. Okay, I actually carry around diaper rash ointment in my purse. I do not have a child in a diaper.
Yes, we can all relate.
Yes, we can.
And she's just revving up. Play the rest of her rant about swamp ass.
Things chafe. Things move around. Things rub together that potentially could start a wildfire. Hey, I could be walking down the street, my thighs rubbing together. Boom, we start a fire. It's serious. It is a constant state of swamp acidness down there, okay? Probably why you see a lot of naked people getting arrested in Florida. It's hot, all right? And it is humid, and everything sweats, and everything is gross. And until you've walked a mile in my gnarly, wet underpants, do not cast judgment.
Swamp ass is a real thing. Oh, my gosh. So she just keeps going and going, getting funnier and funnier. Play this last clip. She's hilarious.
So don't go calling Floridians mean and nasty because you don't know what we've been dealing with. I got a level 7 swamp ass situation right now, okay? Don't cast judgment until you've walked a mile in my swamp ass.
It is so true, though, if you lived here.
I'm experiencing a little bit of the case right now.
And if you ride horses here, it's especially true.
Gross. I can only imagine. Oh, my gosh. So I will include a link to the full clip in the show notes because...
Her delivery was perfect.
Florida, my life. That is so true. So true. Well done. That's inappropriate. Well done.
Go! 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 Go!
Alrighty, Glenn. Today's edition of Florida is called Who's to Blame? This first story comes to us from Vero Beach. 34-year-old Charles Hinckley, who was employed at Trinity Episcopal Church, tried to steal money out of the church drop box. However, he ended up having to call 911 himself instead. When officers arrived at the church at approximately 9:50 p.m., they found the man and quickly saw that he was bleeding profusely. But before I even tell you why or from where he was bleeding, Glenn, I'm going to give you a quick opportunity to guess who's to blame. No, I'm not giving you much to go on this one. But... so when the officers got there, they found that the man who had been trying to steal money from the church drop box, and he was trying to steal them for what? Drugs, by the way. That he had gotten his arm stuck in the drop box. So who's to blame? That's right. Instant karma.
Yes, that is true.
Instant karma.
I was thinking that actually it's bad karma anytime somebody steals from the collection plate.
No, way bad idea. Just
or they go in and steal the booze from the Catholic Church. And first of all, do you know how bad that wine is? I mean, they probably buy the cheapest box wine for that.
It's intended for a sip. It's not intended for a gulp. So it's not really something for tasting. And it's pretty crappy. All right. So this next story is reported out of the Jacksonville area. And Glenn, it might make your tummy feel really weird on like a lot of levels. So I apologize in advance.
Great.
For this one. But okay, here we go. Stacy Wellington, a St. Johns County woman, had an appointment the other day. However, it quickly turned into a very odd encounter. And I want you to think about who this appointment could have possibly been with, okay?
All right.
After Stacy arrived at her appointment, the first sign that something was a bit odd was that she was offered a glass of red wine. Red wine isn't typically offered at a place like this. Then, things quickly escalated when she was given a bizarre foot massage during her appointment. The woman thought the ordeal was so strange that she texted her husband, "Oh my God, he just offered me a foot massage and red wine." Still no guesses as to where this bizarre appointment was?
Yes, I do have a guess.
Okay, what's your guess?
She was at the bank trying to get a mortgage.
No, but good guess.
No?
I like where you're going with it.
Oh, no. Okay. She was at one of the meet and greets with Mickey Mouse.
No. Oh my gosh. No.
That'd be bizarre.
That would be super bizarre. So when the
woman... the massage with those big hands might feel good.
Here's what gets even worse. When the woman left the office, she said that she began to feel pain. And she went to a local hospital to get it checked out. And the staff told her that she had an abscess. So this appointment left her with a glass of red wine, a foot massage, and an abscess. So, Glenn, where was this woman's strange appointment? Who's to blame?
The zoo. She was at the zoo visiting the chimpanzees.
No.
Oh.
She was at the dentist. Yes, that's right. Her dentist gave her red wine and a foot massage and then tended to her mouth. He had her hands on her feet and then put his hands in her mouth. And that is how she got an abscess. So gross.
I assume he's under arrest. Please tell me.
Well, she filed a complaint with the Florida Department of Health. Thank God.
Yeah.
So to be continued. I will try to keep you updated.
I've heard of sedation dentistry, but I didn't think they used red wine for that.
No. I don't think that's normal protocol at all. I don't think that's how it works. Okay, so this last story comes to us from WPLG ABC 10 News about a woman from Fort Pierce.
Please tell me there's somebody naked in this one, because you always have naked in Florida people stories.
Well, you'll just have to listen and find out. Kinesia Posey, 26, was one of 2 passengers in a car that was swerving in the roadway when it was stopped by Fort Pierce police March 21st. According to the police report, an officer approached the car and smelled an odor of marijuana coming from inside. During a search of the car, the officer found cocaine and marijuana in separate bags inside a purse that Posey had on her lap. When questioned about the drugs, Posey admitted that the marijuana was hers, police said. The cocaine, however, was a different story. So, when it comes to the cocaine in Kinesia's possession, Glenn, who's to blame?
Oh, they're always blaming somebody. It was left there by the car cleaning people, like the car wash people.
That's a great guess. But no, Glenn. She blamed, drum roll please.
It blew in through the window.
The wind! She blamed the wind!
No. She really said it blew in through the window.
She said, I quote,
that happens to me every day driving around Florida.
She said, I don't know anything about cocaine, Posey said, according to the report. It's a windy day. It must have flown through the window and into my purse.
Because that happens every day here in Florida.
It's a common hazard.
Yeah.
All the time. Needless to say, she was booked in the county jail on 1 felony count of cocaine possession and a misdemeanor count of marijuana possession, but she was later released on bond. No word on whether the wind was arrested. And that is this episode's Florida segment.
That was enough.
Aren't you proud, Glenn?
I'm embarrassed for our state.
Well, thanks for coming along with us once again as we are finding Florida.
There's so much to do in Tampa Bay, and you get an inside peek into our fun adventure along the Riverwalk coming out in episode 7B in the next couple of days. So look for it.
And for our next adventure next month, we're headed to Fort Lauderdale. We are going to be discovering the fancy side of Fort Lauderdale, and I am so excited.
We're not 100% sure what we're doing yet, but I'm sure we'll involve some champagne, a fancy car or two, and Jemmy navigating high heels.
Wait,
which
I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah, well, which could mean another trip to the hospital.
We'll have to see.
But on the very next episode, it's a trip through history of Tampa Bay as we walk along the Riverwalk. And also take a look for that special episode that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks about the big cat rescue.
Yes. And to find us on social media, just head to findingfloridapodcast.com for all the links or search for Find FL Podcast. Hook up with our new Finding Florida Podcast YouTube channel for behind-the-scenes videos of our adventures. There are so many more videos just waiting to come out, guys, we promise. So now is the time to subscribe.
And here's to your next adventure.
This is episode 7A of the Finding Florida Podcast on the Florida Podcast Network. Riven, damn it.
Start over. 3, 2, 1. We also want to thank all of you who sends 3, 2. In 1521, Tampa began its I cannot talk today. Wow.
So you can ignore the top link. It's just a profile.
So I just click on the top link?
No, ignore.
Do you want me to play it?
Ignore the top link.
I mean, you couldn't make it any clearer on the sheet, really.